Hi YouTubers, this is Stosh with Stosh Does It All, and today I'll be making a vanilla cream ale with my Brewer's Best mash and boil. As you can see, I'm getting the water temperature ready for the grains by recirculating the water. I find that the recirculating keeps the water at a constant temperature. I'm currently at 165 degrees, but my target goal for water temperature prior to adding the grains is 169 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to be using 11 pounds of crushed grain, and I will be adding it to the 3.5 gallons of water in the mash and boil. I'm placing a piece of aluminum foil over the overflow valve to prevent any grains from getting down below the basket. I start by slowly adding the grains and doughing in. As I mix, I make sure I stir well enough so that I don't have any dough balls in the grain basket. I will repeat this process a few more times, adding the grains and mixing them in. You might notice that I have reflective insulation around the mash and boil. I find that with the use of that, as well as a recirculating pump, I'm able to maintain a more consistent temperature throughout my brewing process. Here's what the consistency of my mash looks like. After doughing in, I use a modification to my mash and boil to recirculate the mash while holding the temperature around 150 degrees for the next 90 minutes. After the 90 minutes, I'm ready to mash out by draining the grain basket and sparging. I have to have a pretty good idea of how much liquid I have to collect to know how much sparge water to add, since my end goal is to collect 6.5 gallons of wort with a pre-boil gravity of 1.055. Now, prior to sparging, I will recirculate or vorloff the liquid several times until the wort starts to run clear. And this time, as I'm recirculating, I'm adjusting my temperature to 215 degrees prior to sparging. I have a separate heating vessel where I collected a little over 5 gallons of water, and I heated it to 175 degrees Fahrenheit. I slowly add 1 gallon of sparge water at a time while checking my gravity throughout this process. In the end, I ended up adding about 3 gallons of sparge water, with a total of 6.4 gallons collected for a pre-boil gravity reading of 1.050. Here I'm removing the grain basket, and I'm going to continue to monitor my temperature. Once I reach my boiling temperature, I start my timer and I prepare to add my hops and other necessary items. Here I'm measuring out my hops that I will be adding to the wort. I like to use a hop filter that hangs off the side of the kettle. I'll slowly start to add my hops into the hop filter. I add them slowly because I want to alleviate any form of boil over that may happen. I make sure as I near the end of my boil to take another refractometer reading to make sure that my post-boil gravity is within range. As you can see, I'm using my refractometer by calibrating it with regular water, remembering to look into the eyepiece and hold it to the light. After it's been calibrated, I will then take a sample of wort and again look through the eyepiece while holding it to the light to get a reading. In the end, I ended up with 6 gallons of wort with a post-boil gravity reading of 1.053. My next step was to rapidly chill the wort with my wort chiller, and again, verify my gravity findings with my hygrometer meeting. Finally, I added my wort to my conical fermenter, and when the wort temperature was in range, I added my yeast. Well, that does it. This is Stash with Stash Does It All. Feel free to leave me a comment below, and be sure to check out my other videos on my YouTube channel, and don't forget to subscribe.